What's going on? Welcome into the Real Jonathan Smith Show. We're just a few minutes late today. No big deal. This happens sometimes. You know, you're switching over a show to a new day. Some technical difficulties pop up, but it's all good. We're here. We're live. We are rolling here on Indie Sports Ticket. Thank you for sticking around. If you tuned in earlier, let's go. Here we go. Colts 6-1, the only team in the NFL with a 6-1 record after the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lost last night to the Detroit Lions. The poor Seattle Mariners. I don't know if you caught that or not, but they just had their hearts ripped out. Up 3-1, George Springer steps up. It hits a 3-run bomb. Blue Jays end up winning 4-3, and they advance to the World Series. And the Seattle Mariners are still the only team in the history of Major League Baseball to not achieve that feat. Never won the pennant. Jeez, insane. Anyway, we're not talking baseball. We're talking about the Indianapolis Colts and the Los Angeles Chargers. And yesterday it was all sunshine and rainbows. You know, Colts are so good. You know, saw some people throw out the word Super Bowl contender with the Indianapolis Colts because they went on the road to LA to beat this Chargers team. Can we just be honest though? Or do we have to just sit here and continue to pretend like the Colts didn't just go on the road to play a Chargers team that is one of the three most beaten up teams in the NFL? Like it's them, it's the 49ers or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers who we saw last night. Everyone's excited. And I get it. I really do. Been a long time since the Colts have been good at football here in this great state of Indianapolis. And to me, Sunday was no different than the Colts beating the Raiders 40-6, beating the Dolphins, 33-8, beating the Cardinals with Jacoby Brissett. The Colts did what they were supposed to do on Sunday. They just beat one of the most banged up teams in the NFL. It's the reality of it. That's all that they did. Okay. At one point, the Chargers had their sixth offensive tackle playing. Their sixth-string offensive tackle was having to play real, legitimate snaps. They were on their fourth and fifth cornerbacks. I'm glad that the Colts won. Obviously, I'm glad that the Indianapolis Colts won. Right? Because the show's just better whenever they win. It's the reality of it. So, while the win on Sunday was big, because every win in the NFL is big, it's hard to win in professional sports. It's hard to win in college sports. The Colts did what they were supposed to do. I'm glad that everyone is taking notice, though, of the Indianapolis Colts, and they're finally getting their due. After week after week after week of people being like, are the Colts good? So people are finally like, yeah, it only took 7 weeks and a 6-1 start for the Colts to reach this point. Okay, so I'm just glad that they did what they were supposed to do on Sunday. Now, if they'd done this to a fully healthy Chargers team, then I'd fully understand everyone's, shock and awe of this Colts team as we, watch them, just drub this Chargers team. If that'd been to the fully healthy Chargers team with Joe Alt and not their backup offensive guard and like I said earlier, their sixth offensive tackle, then I'd get it. But it's not though. That's not who they beat. They beat the Chargers with practice squad guys having to play on the offensive line. They did what they should have done. And despite the Chargers being as banged up as they were, the Colts still gave up 421 passing yards. It's a lot of yards. It's a career high for Justin Herbert. It's a lot of yards. The Colts didn't have to defend the run, so didn't really learn too much more about them there, right? So I can't sit here and be like, even though the Chargers were banged up, it feels like the Colts were better at defending the run. And no, that you can't even say that because the Colts got up so big so quickly that they didn't have to defend the run. The Colts just continued to do what they've done all year, and that's take care of business. That's blow out a bad and beat up team because that's what the Chargers are. When you're look, that's every team. When you're down to your sixth offensive tackle, I mean, you're done. That's all that there is to it. And so, just a very dominant win from the Colts on Sunday. I just don't find it as impressive as everybody else does. Thank you for tuning into the show. No matter how you're tuning in, we got Jake Arthur of Locked On Colts. He's going to join the show coming up at 8 a.m. Feels very weird saying that. He's gonna come on at 8 a.m. New show time 7 to 9 a.m. Obviously, we're going to continue talking Chargers and Colts. Who are the Colts' competition? Not just in the AFC, but also looking out at the NFC, teams that can legitimately win the Super Bowl, because maybe the Colts can. I personally don't think that they can, but I'm seeing a lot of people, kind of throw them out there as a potential team who can go and win a Super Bowl. So we'll see what they wind up doing. Like I said, I am not overly convinced that they're going to be able to do that. But there are certainly other teams, kind of around them in their class that that I just kind of want to see how they stack up against them. So I've got a list for that. Indiana, the expectations for the football team have to be sky high right now. They would be for any other program in the country that had this quarterback and and the third highest paid coach in the sport. We're going to get into that a little bit. The NBA starts today, so the Pacers, their season, I believe, starts on Thursday. I believe that's their first game of the year. So we'll talk about them a little bit as well. So, like I said, just a big time loaded show today. Apologies on the late start, but hey, stuff happens sometimes, and you have to take the time to fix it. So everything is fixed. We should have no more issues the rest of the way. I really, really hope that we don't. Yeah. So when we come back here in about 4 minutes, more thoughts on the Colts versus the Chargers.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching the show on X _ Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app or 1430 AM if you're driving around the Indianapolis area. So, oh man, the Real Jonathan Smith Show. It's loaded. It's rolling. Colts. Chargers on Sunday. Last thing on the game on Sunday, because I don't want to poo-poo it too much. Colts win 38-24. As I said in that opening segment, Colts just kind of did what they were supposed to, given all the injuries that the Los Angeles Chargers have. You know, seeing people kind of go crazy about the performance, I just kind of find it funny. It's like, oh, so you don't pay attention, especially the people on ESPN and stuff. So, anyway, the one thing that was really impressive was the fact that the Colts, or the fact that Justin Herbert of the Chargers lit up this Colts defense. I mean, one of the more really impressive things, honestly, just being able to sit in there and absolutely light them up, despite, his sixth offensive tackle playing, was super impressive. He ran for his life all day. And I saw all these Twitter coaches, all these guys that break down film, which usually I appreciate the guys who break down film, because I'll be honest, couldn't do that. I couldn't do it. But I just was scrolling through and they're like, oh, this guy sucks. This guy's terrible. Meanwhile, he just threw for 421 yards. Well, again, running for his life on pretty much every single snap. I thought the way that Justin Herbert played on Sunday was really impressive. He completed 67% of his passes too. Once again, just absolutely absurd. Absolutely absurd. 3 touchdowns. He did throw 2 picks, right? One, bad luck. The other one, he left the ball just a little bit behind his receiver. But at the same time, he dropped back over 60 times. When you drop back that many times, you're bound to throw one. So I thought he was incredible against a very banged up Colts secondary, even though he had to run for his life the whole time. Anyway, Colts, Super Bowl aspirations. That's what they have. And, I'm not buying into that quite yet. I like this Colts team, obviously. I think they're good. I think Daniel Jones has done a great job of just coming in and really elevating the offense, just being a very consistent guy who, is just consistent and efficient, keeps the Colts, on schedule, and then, of course, has the ability to occasionally take the top off the defense whenever Alec Pierce gets loose. So who are the other teams that the Colts are competing against for this Lombardi trophy? And I don't know. I was going through it last night, and I'm not really worried about the AFC because the AFC as a whole just isn't. It's just not very good. It's a lot of underwhelming teams right now. Like the Patriots have a decent chance at winning the AFC East, and it's like they could be like the 1 or 2 seed just because their schedule is so incredibly easy. And I mean, outside of that, the Broncos haven't been very impressive. The Steelers don't exactly jump off the page. The Chargers are good when they're healthy, but they're not healthy. I think the Jacksonville Jaguars are very overrated. The Bengals, Joe Burrow got hurt. The Texans can't block anybody. The Raiders are terrible. The Browns are terrible. The Ravens, maybe they figure it out when Lamar comes back and they're able to go 9-2 down the stretch. I mean, seriously, it's just there's just not very many good teams in the AFC. So I was making a list last night of all the teams that I think can legitimately compete with the Colts. And the Chiefs obviously have to be on this list. They're the only team in the AFC that I think is definitely better than the Indianapolis Colts are. They have Patrick Mahomes. That helps quite a bit. Having him allows you to match this Colts offense. Rashee Rice coming back gives them a true number one wide receiver. I don't know if you saw him against the Raiders, and I get it. It's the Raiders. But, I mean, their offense just looked entirely different with him out there on the field. Okay? Their defense shut out the Raiders. And, again, I get it. It's the Raiders. But that's really impressive. You don't shut teams out in the NFL. You just don't do that. And it happened when Kenny Pickett came in. They completely shut out the Raiders starters. Like, I understand that it's the Raiders, but shutouts just don't happen in the NFL. And then the week prior to that, they played the Lions. They held the Lions offense to only 17 points. That Chiefs defense is turning a corner. It's definitely better than the Colts defense is. I'll say that with absolute faith. Okay, like it is significantly better than the Colts defense. So I like the Chiefs right now more than I like the Colts. But outside of that in the AFC, I mean, they are the only team in the AFC that I think that is without a question better than the Indianapolis Colts. The Bills, I think, are the other team in competition with the Colts for kind of that second best team in the AFC slot. I still have major questions about their run defense because it's just not very good. They can score, but they asked Josh Allen to do quite a bit. You know, they've lightened his load a little bit with the emergence of James Cook and him being a guy and all that kind of stuff. But I do think that this Colts offense is more sustainable since it's not only about Daniel Jones, it's about the offensive line and how they can run the football and do those things. So I like the Colts offense more because of that. If the Colts played the Bills today in the playoffs, I would take the Colts. I don't think either defense is good. And while both offenses are elite, the Colts has been better. The Colts have the best offense in the NFL. They've got the best running back in the NFL. And they have a quarterback who simply doesn't turn the football over. He turns the ball over less than Josh Allen does. Or he's turned the ball over less than Josh Allen has this year. And he just does a better job of taking care of the football. That's the very simple reality of the Colts right now. Like that's why they've been so good. They can run the football and they just don't turn it over. When you run the ball for, chunk plays like they've been doing and you just don't give the football away. The Colts have lost 0 fumbles. They've actually only fumbled the football once all year. So they don't turn it over. They're hyper efficient and they can run the football. That would be the difference in the game. If the Bills played the Colts today in the playoffs, the team that would lose would be the team that just didn't turn it over because both of those teams are going to score, right? And neither one of those teams have a good enough defense to stop that opposing offense. So I think those are the only two teams, the Bills and the Chiefs in the AFC, that are capable of beating the Colts. And it's only because they have the two best quarterbacks in the NFL, right? Like, I mean, that obviously matters quite a bit. Like, there's a reason why we keep finding Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes playing each other in the AFC Championship game. That's the thing. And then, like, you look through the rest of it, and it's like, the Patriots are the 2 seed. I just don't think that they have enough offensively to keep up with the Colts. The Broncos, we already saw them play the Colts. Colts won that game 29-28. The Steelers don't have enough offensively, and that defense isn't very good. The Chargers, too banged up right now. And then you have Jacksonville. Jacksonville, they are the Colts' divisional competition. That's what they are. And the Jaguars are not a bad team. But they're also not the team that you saw beat the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. They're also not quite that good. They have these flashes where they look awesome. And, I know we all love that word, flashes. But at the same time, they're incredibly turnover dependent on defense. When you look at their stops, the majority of them come off of turnovers. Trevor Lawrence is way too up and down. And this is what happens. Teams go play in prime time and they play really well sometimes. And everyone's like, oh man, especially when they're 4-2 at that point, and you just beat the freaking Kansas City Chiefs, right? Because that's no easy thing. But you go out, you win that game, and now everyone's like, oh, you're great. And the Jaguars are not great. That was by far their best game of the year. And then they follow that game up with not one, but two losses. They lose at home to the Seahawks, where they only managed to score 12 points against a very good Seattle defense. And then they managed to score 7 points against a very good Rams defense, and that score came in garbage time. The Colts should run away with the AFC South. They are clearly the better team. They are clearly the best team in this division as well. So the divisional competition, honestly, I really don't think that there is any. Out in the NFC, though, there's quite a bit. The best teams in the NFL are in the NFC. Seriously, every year, maybe not every year, a lot of years in the NBA, they're like, we should just scrap the conferences. Just the 16 teams with the best records should get in. It kind of feels like that this year. It kind of does. Like, there's so many good teams out in the NFC. Like with the in the AFC, like, we know if the Colts, Bills, and Chiefs are good. After that, you'd have to kind of convince me. Like, out in the NFC, the Packers are good. The 49ers are extremely beat up, but for some reason they just keep winning. The Eagles, that's a really good roster. Tampa Bay, super beat up. They're still 5-2. It hadn't really mattered. The Lions are the 5th seed. They're 5-2. The Seahawks, they're the 6th seed. They're 5-2. The 7th seeded Los Angeles Rams are also 5-2. And then you have the Bears, who are 4-2, and then the Panthers, who are 4-3. There are 9 teams in the NFC right now with winning records. Okay, and 7 teams that are 5-2. There's only 3. There's 3 teams in the AFC that are 5-2 or better. 2 teams that are 4-2, and then everyone else is 4-3 or worse. Like, the NFC is clearly the superior conference. There are several teams out in the NFC that I would take to beat the Colts. I just would. I like their rosters so much more. It's a very weird setup this year. The AFC has all the great quarterbacks, and the NFC has all of the great rosters. And we saw that play out last year in the Super Bowl. Great Eagles roster, Patrick Mahomes, great quarterback, beat up offensive line, not very good wide receivers, but a pretty solid defense. And we saw them just get absolutely trounced for the entirety of that game. So my suspicions tell me that we will be having the Super Bowl champion this year come out of the NFC again, because that's just where all of the good rosters are. And as much as I enjoy betting on quarterbacks and picking quarterbacks, more specifically, as much as I enjoy betting on Patrick Mahomes, because who doesn't like to bet on that guy? I mean, is there a worse guy to bet on? I don't think that there is. So, with that being said, I do think that our champion is going to come out of the NFC. I'm going to run through the NFC teams that I think are good enough to beat the Colts in 4 minutes, and then I'm going to get into what is a successful season for IU football, because I was thinking about their circumstances yesterday. And just thinking about it compared to, like, if, Ohio State had all these things, if an SEC team had all these things, what would be the expectation? I'm going to tell you what that is as well in 4 minutes.
If you're 55 or older and into that whole saving money thing, T-Mobile has an exclusive phone and internet bundle just for you. Right now, get 2 unlimited phone lines plus 5G home internet for just $30 each per month with autopay, plus taxes and fees. And with 5G home internet, setup is easy with just one cord and no technician needed, which is great if you're also into that whole keeping it simple thing. Switch now and experience the best mobile network in the U.S. Visit your local store to start saving. T-Mobile, it's better over here. Based on analysis by Ookla of speed test intelligence data Q4 2024 to Q1 2025. Ookla trademarks used under license. Unlimited on our network. Customers on voice plan may notice speeds lower than other customers and further reduction if using more than 50 gigs a month due to data prioritization. Video streams and SD on this plan. Home internet pricing after $20 a monthly bill credit plus $5 per line without autopay. Debit or bank account required. See 5G device coverage and access details at tmobile.com.
Listen Fridays to Dan Dockich for the sure shot of the weekend. Presented by Moondrops Distillery. This is Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always in the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
If it's in today's sports world, it's here. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching the show on X _ Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. Now, the Colts, who are the other teams sitting atop the league with the Colts? Nobody in terms of record. The Colts, the only 6-1 team in the NFL, 7 weeks into the season. Pretty sweet. Just brings a smile to my face to say that. So the AFC, there's only 2 teams. I think the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Colts are kind of in a league of their own. Maybe the Broncos figure it out offensively. If they do, then I think that you would have to put them in that category. But if they don't, then if the Chargers get healthy, we'll see if that happens or not, then I think they belong in that category as well. So the Rams, I think they already beat the Colts once. And when I say that, Colts fans immediately turn into Bronco fans. So, Jonathan, well, what do you mean by that? Well, whenever I say that, the Rams beat the Colts, then everyone's like, well, I mean, if A.D. Mitchell hadn't dropped the ball, or if A.D. Mitchell hadn't committed that holding call, then we would have won, right? And then Bronco fans say, if we hadn't committed that penalty on the field goal, then we would have beaten the Colts. Either way, that's what happens. That's what happened. And the winning teams took advantage of the other team's mistakes. And that's what really good teams do. And that's what the Rams are. And that's what the Colts are. The Rams have the better quarterback, who's a very sneaky MVP candidate. Just saying, by the way, if you want to throw some money down on Matthew Stafford to win MVP, Wouldn't blame you. He's only on pace to throw like 40 touchdowns this year. That is not an exaggeration either. He's thrown for 1,800 yards. He's thrown 17 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. Kind of nuts. Dude's having a monster year. Anyway, as of right now, I just don't think that the Colts have the cornerbacks to beat them or the pass rush to beat them. The Colts can obviously score on that defense, as we saw in that game earlier in the year. So I still trust the Rams defense more than I do the Colts. But I think if those two teams were to play again, it'd be a very high-scoring affair, which I'm all for that. A high-scoring Super Bowl, let's go. That'd be awesome. That'd be fantastic. The Packers, I would take them to beat the Colts as well. That's the most complete roster in the NFL. Okay, most rosters in the NFL have a pretty clear weakness. The Packers don't really have a weakness. They obviously have areas where they aren't as good or aren't great or where they're underachieving, like their offensive line. Still good, just not as good as projected. They got some injuries in the wide receiver room. Josh Jacobs looks like he kind of lost a step a little bit, but he's still a good back. It's still a very complete team with one of the best defenses in the NFL. I really like the Packers because they can just win in multiple ways. And I think that's what the best teams in all sports do. Like the Dodgers are great because they can beat you 1-0 if they need to, and the Dodgers can also beat you, 8-6. The Packers, I think they're good because they can beat you in a really big shootout, and they can also beat you in like a close defensive bout, and that's part of my holdup with the Colts. Like, yes, they can outscore you, right? It's the best offense in the NFL. They have the highest average points per drive in NFL history through 7 weeks. They're averaging like 3.5 points per possession, which is just nuts. Okay, but if the Colts get held to 13 points, they're not winning that game. You say, well, Jonathan, when are they going to get held to 13 points? The answer is that's probably not going to happen at all. But you see my point. Okay, the Colts can only win in one way, and it happens when the Colts offense goes crazy. Whereas with the Packers, I think that they can win in multiple ways, and I like that. All right. The Eagles are incredibly talented, right? One of the best rosters in the NFL. They're loaded. Question is if Saquon Barkley can get it rolling and if Jalen Hurts can be the guy that he was against the Vikings, got out of the pocket, pushed the ball down the field, got the ball to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. If that's who he's going to be, then they're going to be good enough to beat anyone, especially this Colts defense, because this Colts team, could you imagine running Chris Lamons and Jonathan Edwards out at corner to defend Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown? Wouldn't go well for anybody, right? Another very high-scoring game, more than likely. So the Eagles, like if we got a Colts-Eagles Super Bowl, I'd probably have to take the Eagles just because the roster's more complete than the Colts. And then the Seahawks, same thing. They, took it to the Texans last night, winning 27-19. They went up 14-0 in the first quarter. I was like, that's a really tough hill for Houston to climb because Houston's no good whatsoever. Okay, Seahawks Colts would be an awesome Super Bowl. Just from the standpoint of Sam Darnold is just like this retread guy. So was Daniel Jones, a couple guys that had to leave New York to find themselves. Kind of sounds like a sappy movie, right? It'd be fun. That Seahawks defense is super nasty, right? Mike McDonald, defensive head coach, taking on Shane Steichen, the new young offensive mastermind, and so on. So Seahawks Colts would be a lot of fun, but I would take the Seahawks. I'm telling y'all, the Super Bowl champion is coming out of the NFC this year, unless they absolutely crap the bed, which I guess is possible. But the Colts clearly need to make a trade. Like it so clearly needs to happen, and I don't know when. Obviously before the trade deadline, but they so desperately need a pass rusher and a corner, for being honest. But they definitely need one or the other. I hope that they go and get a corner. We'll see what they do, but Anyway, Indiana football. Something that I probably don't talk about. I definitely don't talk about nearly enough. What's a successful basketball season for Indiana? Or basketball season. Jeez, I'm sorry. The NBA starts today, and all of a sudden I'm just like, basketball, let's go. No. What's a successful football season for IU? And I wrote down last night that they have to win at least one playoff game. I honestly don't know if that's enough, because they're likely going to finish 12-0. They're probably going to lose to Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. And they'll either get a bye or they'll host a home playoff game. I think that's where we're at with Indiana football right now, because the rest of the schedule isn't tough. When you work through it, I mean, I'm still going to stand by the fact that that Penn State's their toughest game left, just because they're so freaking talented. I mean, it's just the amount of talent on that Penn State roster, and the fact that they haven't beaten a Power 4 team all year is kind of absurd. They're going to play Ohio State, by the way. Penn State only a 4.5-point underdog in that game against Ohio State. Honestly, with Indiana going on the road to Penn State, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if Penn State was favored in that game a couple weeks from now. But anyway, back to IU. They should go 12-0. That is 1,000% what should happen. Okay, they're like a 24.5-point favorite over UCLA. I know Coach Signetti's doing the whole coach speak thing where he's like, we're not, we're playing a 3-0 team. It's like, no, you're not, but okay. Whatever you say. And then they're going to play Maryland and then Penn State and then Wisconsin and then good old Purdue. They should win all those. They should be playing at Lucas Oil for a Big Ten title, where, again, they'll probably lose to Ohio State because I think that they're legitimately the only great team in college football. No matter what happens to Indiana, whether they get a bye or a home playoff game, then they should absolutely, at a minimum, make it to the semifinals. I think that's the only way to define a successful season for Indiana this year. They appear to be one of the 4 best teams in college football. They do. I mean, name 4 teams that are better than Indiana is this year. I don't think that you can do it. You can name Ohio State, and then you're going to really kind of struggle. You're going to. People are going to get really upset. I would throw Alabama out there. Alabama's really, really good. I don't know about Texas A&M. I think that game would be very interesting. But that's really about it, right? I mean, that's it. If you're one of the 4 best teams in the country, then you have to get to the semis, especially with the way that they've reformatted the seeding. The 4 byes no longer go to the 4 conference champions. They or the 4 highest rated conference champions. It just goes to the 4 best teams. So they should get a bye, win a playoff game, and then get to the semifinals, and then we'll kind of see how the cards unfold from there. But I was thinking about it last night. Like, if any SEC team had the 3rd highest paid coach in the sport and the potential number 1 overall pick at quarterback, anything less than a national title would be considered a failure. And I don't think that that's necessarily the case, just because it's not only about your team, it's about everyone else as well. So semifinals are better for Indiana is what I would deem as a successful year this year. Someone asked me over in the YouTube chat if I trust Badgley, the new Indianapolis Colts kicker. I'll say, didn't inspire a ton of confidence when he waltzed out there and missed a point after attempt on Sunday. I don't, but I don't think it's really going to matter a ton. Like, the Colts have clearly figured out all of their red zone woes. To Badgley's credit, he did hit that field goal going into halftime. So I don't think it's really going to matter whether it's Badgley kicking or Spectacles guy who used to Rodrigo Blankenship, right? Like I don't think it really matters who's going to kick for the Colts because they've just become a touchdown machine in the red zone. I know they went like 10 possessions in a row where they scored a touchdown on their red zone drive. So I'm just telling you, like really I don't think it really matters who's kicking for the Colts as long as it's not the guy who was kicking for the Giants. I mean, I don't know if you guys caught this, but the Giants kicker on Sunday against the Broncos missed 2 extra points, and that ended up being a large part of why they lost. So when it comes to the Colts, I'm not really worried about whoever is lining it up to kick for them because this is a team that's going to score touchdowns, and if you're an NFL kicker, then your chances are you're probably going to make 95% of your point after attempt. So no, not really worried about Badgley. I think he'll be fine. I'm sure. Hopefully, as the year goes on, he'll get a little more comfortable and he'll look a little bit better, and he won't miss any more PATs in games in which the Colts absolutely obliterate another team. So, yeah, I'm not really worried about Badgley. I think that he'll be fine. I think the Colts have much greater concerns than Badgley, like mainly at corner and every defensive line spot and at linebacker. I'm much more concerned about all those things than kickers. Otter Creek saying that kickers are really important in big games. They are, but so are linebackers, corners, and edge rushers, and the Colts are pretty bad at all those spots as well. So, Jake Arthur of Locked On Colts, he is set to join the show coming up here at 8 o'clock. Yeah, if you're tuning in looking for that show that's normally on CBS, it is not here anymore. So hate to break it to you, but it is no longer here. So it's the Real Jonathan Smith Show now every day from 7 to 9 a.m. When we come back here in about 4.5 minutes, I'll have Jake Arthur of Locked On Colts joining the show.
do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome into the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching the show on X__Jonathan Smith. Follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app. I'm now joined by the one and only Jake Arthur, host of the Locked On Colts podcast. We have his counterpart, Zach Hicks, on pretty often. So really nice to get Jake on here as well. Morning, Jake. How are you, man?
What is up? I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing good. Is 8 a.m. early for you?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay.
You gotta get up before the money. You know what I mean? I'm usually up by 5.
Oh, up by 5. What a guy. Jeez, this dude. That's awesome. All right. Up before the money. That's good. I'm gonna steal that. I like that.
You can have it.
Thank you. So, Colts beat Jake. The national media drives me nuts because all year long they're questioning the Colts. You know, they start 2-0 and they're compared to the Saints from last year. When they get to 3-0, they're like, they're just like the Panthers from 2021. And I joked on X that, the Colts being 6-1, they're going to be like, they're the 2009 Broncos who started 6-0, finished 9-7 and missed the playoffs. And then they go on the road and they beat the Chargers. And everyone's like, oh, what a great win. I just don't think that it is. I think that when you're playing a Chargers team that's on their 6th offensive tackle, I just don't classify that as a great win. How did you feel about the Colts win on Sunday?
I still felt like it was a quality win. The Chargers are still a playoff caliber team. They're not the Dolphins or, the Titans or anything like that. So I still feel like they're a playoff capable team. And as much as the Chargers were banged up, the Colts have important injuries too. Travarius Ward being out is monumental, and you could tell with what Justin Herbert was able to do out there. You lose Tyquan Lewis, you lose Samson Ebukam to a pass rush that's already kind of iffy. The Colts have had some important injuries they were dealing with as well. So I really thought both sides were kind of limping in there, but that the Colts still obviously looked like the much better team. The defense did worry me there for a bit. I don't know how they keep getting away with it, I'll be honest. I think they just make really timely, opportune plays. And overall, the Colts defense did play well for a very good chunk of that game. They held LA to 3 points going into halftime. It just so happened three straight touchdown drives to open up the second half. LA clearly found something they could lean into and hammered that to death. But for the Colts to slam the door and not allow a 21-play drive to yield any points, I thought was huge.
It was. That drive to me, I talked about it yesterday. That drive doesn't happen last year because I felt like I'm not the best X's and O's guys, but what I felt like was happening, it was we're going to rush 4, drop 7, not give up any deep plays, and then we're going to rally to make the tackle. And I just watching the game, I was like, the Colts defense does not consistently make these tackles last year. And that to me has been a large part of their defensive success. I don't feel like is the right word. Survivability. I just feel like they're such a better tackling team this year compared to last year. Have you picked up on that?
Yeah, without question. I think in general, this is a much, much better defense. And at full health, I think it's actually a really good defense. But we have hardly seen them at good health at all, which has kind of formed them into you have to look at the defense completely differently now because the health they were going to have just may not happen at some point. To me now, they are kind of a bend but don't break defense, but how it's supposed to look. There's been the Colts have even had a lot of bend but don't break defenses that bent and broke, which, you could kind of say, hey guys, you can't really call it that if it's going to consistently break. But they'll give up yards. They'll let teams get down the field, but they come up with the sack on third down, or they come up with an interception in the red zone. They force they force some sort of stop against the offense that makes a really promising drive end in a field goal or less. So I just think that's what the defense is now. We've kind of got to adjust our expectations accordingly. Just because until you've got Charvarius Ward out there and a pass rush that looks any good and consistent, at least, I just think you have to see it as a defense that's going to give up some plays through the air, because they also can't really call the coverages they want to either. Like, you can't call a bunch of man coverage as much as the Colts want to call man coverage. You just can't do that right now with how the linebackers are in coverage and the pass rush and the personnel you have at corner. You just kind of can't do that. So I think by design, it kind of is shifting into an effective bend but don't break defense.
Joined by Jake Arthur, host of Locked On Colts and Colts beat writer for the Round Table Network. You can follow him on X at Jake Arthur NFL. And if you want to keep up with the Locked On Colts podcast, you can follow that on X as well at Locked On Colts. So, I haven't seen anything on this. Do you by chance know how serious the Ebukon, the Abukum, however you say it? I felt like I called him Abukum last year. And then I called him Ebukam last year, and everyone called him Abukum, and then I switched, and so did everybody else. So I don't know how you say it, but do we have any sort of? I haven't seen anything on it. Do we have any sort of update on his injury?
No, so it's Ebukam. So you stick with your heart there.
Okay, all right.
So yesterday there was the Jeremy Fowler report that he could be out multiple weeks and was getting a second opinion. And we just so happened to talk to Shane Steichen like 30 or 45 minutes after that came out, and I asked him about it, and he really gave nothing to it, or he added nothing to it. He basically just said, yeah, all I know right now is he's got a knee injury, and we'll see how the week goes. So, in Shane Steichen speak, that's basically him giving us words without an answer.
Yeah.
Maybe by tomorrow when their work week starts, they'll probably know a bit more. That typically is the case. Asking about injuries on a Monday, unless it's like a severe one that where, an MRI confirms like an ACL or something, they're usually not going to have as much info there. I think it's an MCL injury, so probably just like an MCL sprain or something that, again, according to Fowler's sources, could cause multiple weeks. But yeah, I'm hoping we get more from Steichen on that tomorrow, because Ebukam wasn't a starter, but you're playing him serious snaps. And if he can't play, then that's going to mean more work for JT Tuimoloau, who they've been a little apprehensive to play, although he's played over 20 snaps each in the last 2 weeks. So it seems like he may be picking it up a little bit more lately.
If Ebukam is out, then yeah, like he better pick it up. Once again, joined by Jake Arthur, host of Locked On Colts and Colts beat writer for the Round Table Network. If Ebukam is out for like 3 or 4 weeks, how do you think that impacts because Diana Rossini, she reported that the Colts were looking for a corner. If Ebukam is out for 3 or 4 weeks, how do you think that impacts what the Colts want to do at the trade deadline?
Well, my understanding about what they might want at the trade deadline would be an edge and or a corner. As far as it being an edge player, being at one point, I think they would have only wanted someone who was like an actual impact player and not just necessarily a rotational piece. If Ebby comes out a little bit, I think those standards maybe have to dip a little because you're going to need someone who is capable of playing 25, 30 or so snaps. You may have to settle a little bit. Now, if you could go out and get like a Jalen Phillips, or if you want to cough up $1 zillion, right, Carl Granderson, or, Trey Hendrickson. I mean, the Bengals probably don't want to do that anymore now that they're winning games. But yeah, instead of getting a marquee pass rusher, you might just have to go with someone who can get the job done, so to speak. I guess the good news is that Ebicom isn't a starter, so you don't need a guy who's going to play 40, 50 snaps. But yeah, you might still just need someone capable of getting to the quarterback no matter how that looks.
What have you thought about Latu this year?
Man, he's such a tough evaluation because it would be so easy for us to call bust and everything if we didn't ever see him do anything. But he is, I see him routinely beating tackles and getting to the quarterback and affecting where the quarterback moves. Like, he is pressuring the quarterback regularly and making an impact there. But for a 15th overall pick, it has got to result in sacks. And luckily it finally did. He finally got his second one of the season on the board on Sunday. But it just needs to be a little more. And I think the problem is he is winning the rep eventually, but he's not like winning it super quick. And I think that's why we're seeing them be pressures rather than sacks, is because he's getting to the quarterback eventually. He's just not getting there quick enough. So overall, I still think he's performing as like a pretty good pass rusher. He just hasn't been to the level that the Colts need him to be yet.
Yeah, and I once again joined by Jake Arthur of Locked On Colts, and he's also the Colts beat writer for the Roundtable Network. So my take last week met with a lot of unhappy isn't the right word, a lot of disagreement. Before this injury, I firmly thought that the Colts should go get a corner because everyone's telling me exactly what you said, and I'm seeing it too, right? Like, Latu's close. If we give Latu like an extra 0.2 of a second, which that Jonathan Edwards, as hard as he's playing, I like him more out there than I liked Xavier Howard. But like, if you just have like a slight upgrade there, you can give, Latu and Buckner and the rest of these guys an extra like 0.2 seconds. Is that I feel like that would be enough to see those sack numbers increase a little bit. What do you kind of think about that?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great example of how the coverage and the pass rush definitely work in concert. I mean, you would the pass rush is supposed to be the key. They're supposed to be the ones winning because, I mean, even the best corners, you don't want to leave them on an island for long. Like, even Stephon Gilmore at his peak and everything shouldn't be having to cover out there for like 5 seconds,
Yeah, that's fair.
So it is tough. And that's one reason why they've got to play more zone coverage and everything right now, is because they're playing Mekhi Blackman and Jonathan Edwards, and Chris Lamont has been having to play a lot of snaps. Like, they're just kind of stuck with what they've got at the moment, which adds another layer of, urgency to add more. Because I got a little bit of pushback too. I mean, largely support. I think everyone knows the Colts need to be buyers at the deadline. But there were some people who were like, well, they're 6-1 now. And it's like, yeah, but I mean, you want them, you don't you want them to try and get even better.
Yeah.
Or to improve the things that are obvious issues. So yeah, I think that's how you wind up with those, the coverage and the pass rush being your two most obvious things, because they do affect each other so much. Obviously, if corners are able to cover for longer, then that's going to make the quarterback hold on to the ball, that second longer that you're mentioning, and letting some of the role players get there. But yeah, it's not great for that to be kind of their two biggest needs, the things that work together the most.
Joined by Jake Arthur of Locked On Colts, and he's the Colts beat writer for the Roundtable Network. Chris Ballard has a history of being conservative. What do you think the chances are that he makes no trade at all?
I mean, that's always a good chance, because I don't think he's the thing about him is it's not necessarily that he is aggressive, that he isn't aggressive. He's very protective over their assets and their people. Like, he's had a million opportunities to trade away good players. Like, there are teams that call about good players on their team, but he will not just he won't send them away to a bad situation, and he won't send them away for anything less than what they're worth. But when it comes to him being a buyer also, he's not gonna pay like this exorbitant price for a player who's in like the final year of their contract and may not re-sign there, or who's just a rental, or who's like, way past their prime. I do think he's changed his ways a little bit, because at a certain point they do now have a team that's ready to compete, and it's not necessarily just about building right now. Like, I think everyone recognized jobs were probably on the line when this season started. So you've seen urgency from them. It seems like every time someone gets hurt, they bring in someone new. I've never seen a coordinator like Lou Anarumo get the amount of resources that he's been given, both in players that he's worked with before and clearly wants, and just bodies in general. Like, they clearly want that cornerback room to be as good as possible, because they've had a crazy amount of injuries, but they've continued to feed the beast.
They have. Are there any specific players that you would want the Colts to trade for?
That's a good one. So if you're looking, edge and corner obviously would be where I would look to. Jalen Phillips from the Dolphins, I think, is someone who the price isn't crazy, and I think he's actually a good young productive player. He's got injury history, but you kind of need some juice right now there. He would be a good one. I would also be pretty interested in Reek Woolen from the Seahawks. If you want to get back to playing man coverage, he is a height, weight, speed guy who was like an all-pro as a rookie and had like 6 interceptions as a rookie. So he's someone with ball skills and like great size and athleticism. It's dwindled, and he's gotten really hot and cold in his later years in Seattle for whatever reason. Like, I think he was much better when Pete Carroll was there. But he fit the Colts very, very well when he was coming out of the draft. And then, by the time Travarius Ward gets back, and boom, you've got 2 guys that you can actually play man coverage with, who are, they've got good size, athleticism, and ball skills. I think Woolen and Ward would be an awesome pairing. But if you can only give me one position to add, I think I still would go with edge rusher.
I really like both those guys. Jake, I am a Dolphins fan, and so the idea, like, Jalen Phillips would be awesome. I freaking love that dude. As you said, he's had some injuries, but when he's been healthy, he's been so productive. There's just the question of the injuries, and I think Woolen would be awesome. I think he'd be awesome. Two more questions for you, Jake, and I will let you go.
Yeah.
Colts schedule going forward. I don't think it's super tough. Is there a certain stretch in there that worries you a little bit?
Yeah, I think the back portion, the post-bye portion is pretty tough. You've got a road trip to Arrowhead. You've got a Monday night game, luckily at home against the 49ers. And then you've got both of your Jaguars matchups and both of your Texans matchups. So the last, month or so of the season is pretty tough. They're all very winnable games. I don't think there's a game in there where the Colts shouldn't be. They're not going to be the favorites and all. I'm like, they're not going to be favorites against the Chiefs, but like, there's not a game in there where you should have like severe doubt that they could win. Because I think they could even beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs are playing really good football right now, but like, they started off really slow. They clearly are a team that has warts. And the Colts, to their credit, look like they can compete with any team in the NFL any week. But yeah, that last stretch worries me because luckily they're building up all their wins early in the season. Because I think where it could be the most difficult is there at the very end, where you would normally be hoping to scrape up your most wins and fight for a playoff spot and fight for positioning. Well, if they're already at 6 wins, if they already scoop up, a playoff spot early-ish in the season, well, it won't matter as much if they lose a couple games at the end of the year, because they'll at least have a playoff spot locked up. So I guess that's why it's been so important that they got off to the fast start that they did this season, because the end of the year could be very, very interesting.
It could be. They go to Seattle in that as well, in that late end of the year stretch, which I don't know. By the time they play the Niners may be playing in like wheelchairs, the way that they're just so beat up. Once again, joined by Jake Arthur of Locked On Colts, also the Colts beat writer for the Roundtable Network. So every time I have Zach Hicks on, like without fail, we talk about Matt Gonsalves and Adetomiwa Adebawore because he just loves those guys. Do you have anyone like that on the Colts where you're just like, I love watching this guy play?
We got to go with an unheralded one, I'm sure, because everyone loves all the top players. I gotta think because like my guys are usually like summer darlings, and then it doesn't always work out. Like I was really into Joe Bocci.
Joe Bocci, okay,
yeah. Before that kind of went downhill. Let's see.
I love Nick Cross.
Nick Cross. That's a really good one. I think he's got some stuff in his game to clean up, but I think he has been one of the probably 2 or 3 most consistent players on the Colts defense for a couple of years now. So Nick Cross is definitely a good one.
It's amazing. You sprain Josh Downs' ankle and all of a sudden you become awesome. That's basically what happens.
Him. And then obviously Ashton Doolin, like everyone knows about Ashton Doolin by now. Chris Lamons is another guy who I think for the last like year and a half, whenever he's been given an opportunity, has looked really, really good.
Yeah, he has as well. It's just, I was talking, I think to the Colts' credit, I think they do a really good job of developing players. And I think that we're really seeing that. Like even their better players, like Jonathan Taylor was not a 3-down back last year. You know, Zaire Franklin was a 7th round pick. I think Alec Pierce has gotten better. Part of that could just be he's got a quarterback who can do more than throw it 70 yards downfield. So I've just been really impressed with the player development of the Colts. Is there a guy in particular that sticks out as this guy's made a jump over the last, 1 or 2 years?
I think Adebawore is a good one. Gonsalves as well. There were major questions about both of those guys. Like we weren't even positive Adebawore was going to make the roster just because he had just not shown very much in his first couple of years. But I see him make a play or two in the backfield. It seems like every week at this point. That's a good one. Gonsalves was a tackle, had very little, almost no experience at guard coming into this year. And luckily they got to kind of groom him throughout the offseason and the summer to play right guard. And he's been one of the best right guards in the entire NFL this season. So I think that's a really good one as well. Yep. Let's see if there's, I think that those are ones that like really, really jump out.
Yeah, the decision to move on from Ryan Kelly and Will Fries, the Ryan Kelly decision, not as much, but Will Fries was so good last year. The willingness to let both of them walk and to have them replaced by 2 guys in Bortolini and Gonsalves who have been as consistent as everyone else on that offensive line. And when you're on an offensive line with Bernard Ryman and Quentin Nelson, and that's the compliment you get, like that, I think says a lot about how they're doing. Just really impressive stuff from this Colts staff in terms of their ability to develop players. Jake, thanks for your time, man. Today's Tuesday. No practice today. What's going on with the Colts? Are you writing anything? Any podcasts coming out or anything like that?
We'll be doing a podcast coming up later, likely about some of the things that just the team and the players have accomplished so far this year. Tuesday and Wednesday can be kind of filler episodes unless something new comes up. But no, there's some Colts players that have kind of gotten off their historic starts, whether it's in league history or Colts franchise history. There's some guys doing some really head-turning things. So I'm probably going to focus on that today.
Okay, sounds good. Jake, thanks for your time, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
That is Jake Arthur. You can check him out on X at Jake Arthur NFL. Does a great job covering the Colts. You can check out his writing. He's part of the Roundtable Network. Does a great job of covering the Colts. And, of course, you can also listen to him on Locked On Colts. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, Colts, Chargers, great game. But I just want to move on from it. I don't want to be negative about it, and I feel like I am being negative, and I don't like that. So, Colts competition. Who are the teams that the Colts are competing with? Not just at the top of the AFC, but at the top of the NFL.
Dan Dockage at noon. The Real Jonathan Smith Show. Now, this is Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching the show on X _ Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. And of course, 1430 a.m. as well. Big thanks to Jake Arthur for joining me in that last segment to talk Colts. We went long, so I don't have enough time to run through all of the Colts competition while having to hit a break. So instead, I'm going to take 5 minutes to do something that I've been dying to do for a while now. I'm sure everyone is aware of this. So, I'm sure you're just as excited as I am. The NBA is back tonight. I'm so excited. I can't wait. We got Thunder Rockets tonight. Kevin Durant making his debut. Anyway, I'm not talking about that. I want to talk about the Pacers. Right? Their season, I believe, starts on Thursday. They're playing host to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I just kind of want to lay out what I think are fair expectations for them this year, what I think that this team is going to look like, and I think a few players to look at as the year goes on. First and foremost, congratulations to Aaron Nesmith. He got a 2-year, $40 million extension. Money well spent, man. Like that is a guy that I would want on my team every week, every year. Like, he's just tough and competitive, and he guards and he can shoot. He can put it on the deck a little bit too if he needs to. So glad that the Pacers were able to lock him up for 2 more years to stay here in Indy. Now, Pacers, here we go. I think that they make the play-in at a minimum because the Eastern Conference is just not very good. Like all of the talent, surprise, surprise, is in the Western Conference. I've been alive for 25 years, and I feel like this is what we say every single year. All of the talent is in the West. Because, like, the teams in the West, man, like Dallas is going to be good. Denver is going to be good. Golden State is going to be competitive. Houston has NBA title aspirations. The Lakers, they do as well because they have Luka and LeBron. The Timberwolves expect to be really good. The Spurs, I think, are going to be much better. The Thunder, probably going to be the best team in that conference. Once again, I think the Pelicans are very interesting until Zion Williamson eventually gets hurt. Okay, so the Western Conference, way more talent, way better rosters than the Eastern Conference. Like, out east, I think Atlanta is going to be pretty frisky, big, long, athletic, can shoot. Everyone on the floor can guard except for Trae Young. Boston, even without Jason Tatum, like they'll be competitive, but no real title aspirations there. The Cavaliers have legitimate title aspirations. The Pistons are going to be tough and frisky again. The Heat are going to be the Heat. The Bucks, I don't think are going to be very good outside of Giannis. The Nets are going to be bad. The Knicks will be good, and the Magic will be good. And we'll see about Philly. We'll see if that team can stay healthy. So there's only like 4 or 5 teams in the East that are legitimately good. And this is a Pacers team that, even without Tyrese Halliburton, is going to be incredibly deep. So I think that at a minimum, they make the play-in. If they were the 5th or 6th seed, I wouldn't be surprised. And honestly, if they grabbed the 4th seed and hosted a home playoff series, that wouldn't surprise me either. Because this team is just filled with good players. Like, the front office of the Indiana Pacers has once again outdone themselves. I mean, it's just incredible, just the amount of talent on this roster. Like, Andrew Nembhard can play. TJ McConnell's out right now, but when he comes back, we know how good he is. Benedict Mathurin, a guy who's poised to potentially have a big year. I think everyone loves Ben Shepherd and Johnny Furphy. Aaron Nesmith, everybody loves him. Right? Pascal Siakam, hadn't even mentioned him yet. Best player on this team, a guy who, led some pretty good teams in Toronto as that number 1 guy. Obi Toppin, another good player. And then at center, they've got like 7 centers. They do. But before we get to the centers, because I think that's going to be really important for them this year, 3 guys who could potentially break out. One is Andrew Nembhard. His numbers will 1,000% go up because he's going to have the ball way more than he did when Tyrese Halliburton was playing point guard and Andrew Nembhard was playing the 2. Okay, so Andrew Nembhard's numbers will go up. We've seen him in the playoffs before have success while being that guy. So Andrew Nembhard, very excited to kind of see what he looks like. Benedict Mathurin, another guy that I think people are expecting big things from. He's not going to lead the Pacers in scoring. That's going to be Pascal Siakam. So if you're expecting like Benedict Mathurin, 27 points a night, that's only going to happen if Pascal Siakam gets hurt. Okay. And honestly, we don't want that to happen, right? Because this Pacers team, they're at their best when they move the ball and they do all those things. But Benedict Mathurin, he'll be featured a lot more. He's, Coach Carlisle said he did a thing with Tim Legler and was basically like, yeah, Benedict Mathurin is our starting shooting guard unless he messes it up. So big year for Mathurin, hopefully coming. And then like this, if not now, then when for Jarris Walker? Still holding out hope, man. 6'8", athletic, can guard, can shoot. We'll see. So those are the three guys that I'm keeping my eye on just for kind of breakout years for Jarris Walker. He's not going to start. He's not going to start at the 3 or the 4 over, Pascal Siakam at the 4 and Aaron Nesmith at the 3. But if he can be the second guy off the bench after TJ McConnell, then I think we'll feel really good about Jarris Walker going forward. So those are the three potential breakout players. The most interesting position for the Pacers this year is center, because they've got three guys that are all going to be kind of vying for minutes. James Wiseman coming off the Achilles, Isaiah Jackson coming off of the Achilles, and then Jay Huff, who they traded for over in Memphis. So I don't know which of those three is going to be the best. But for, but I think for all intents and purposes, the best center or the best lineup for the Pacers this year is going to be when Obi Toppin plays center. That's just kind of my expectation for it, and we'll kind of see what he looks like going forward. So I'm really excited for the year this next year. Starts tonight, big games. Ridger, I think, said that Jarris Walker's trash. That's just not true. You're just telling me that you didn't watch the Pacers play very much. So anyway, when we come back here in about 4 minutes, we're going to talk about the Colts, who are the other teams sitting atop the NFL with the Indianapolis Colts.
It may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Uh-oh. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe watch the show on X__ Jonathan Smith to follow me there. And watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app or 1430 AM if you're driving around the Indianapolis area. The Colts. Good. It's a good team. It's a really good team. No way around it. They're one of the best teams in the league. I think they're one of the three best teams in the AFC. I think it's them. I think it's the Bills, and I think it's the Chiefs. I think those are the three teams in the AFC that have legitimate Super Bowl aspirations. Okay, like those are the three AFC teams or the two AFC teams that the Colts are competing with to, get to the Super Bowl and potentially hoist a Lombardi trophy. The Chiefs, they're the only team in the AFC that I think is definitely better than the Colts. They have Patrick Mahomes. That obviously matters quite a bit. Really good player. So they can match the Colts offense that we all know is very high powered and is the best offense in the NFL. Rashee Rice coming back for them is obviously a pretty big part of that. When you bring back a wide receiver of that caliber who can really just go, man. Like that dude is he's just really good. Just no way around it. So they now have a true number one wide receiver that'll lighten the load for 35-year-old Travis Kelce a little less Juju Smith-Schuster, a little more Xavier Worthy stretching the field. That's the only team in the AFC that I think is better than the Chiefs. And it's not because of the offense, because, again, the Colts have the best offense in the NFL. Their defense, the Chiefs' defense is just better than the Colts is. They just shut out the Raiders. And I get it. I do. It's the Raiders. But teams in the NFL don't get shut out. Like that never happens. And the Chiefs just did it to a divisional opponent. Divisional games are supposed to be, they're not always, but they're supposed to be a little bit tougher than your games against, non-divisional teams and definitely non-conference teams. So I just like their defense more. I think it's turning a corner. The game prior, they held the Lions to 17 points. It's a really good It's a really good offense as well. So I like their defense more than I like the Colts. So I would give them the nod there. The Bills, I don't think are as good as the Colts. So that being said, Ed Oliver hasn't been available, and their defense obviously improves with him in it. And that is my question about the Bills, right? Like I have major questions about their run defense. Okay, they can score, but they also ask Josh Allen to do quite a bit. Like James Cook obviously helps a little bit with that, but I like the offense of the Bills. I don't like the defense. But again, when Ed Oliver comes back, we will reevaluate. But I think if the Bills played the Colts today, it'd just be a shootout. Be the first one to 45 wins. Or the first one, or the first team to turn it over loses. That's probably a little more accurate. And when you look at Daniel Jones, the biggest thing that he has corrected here in Indianapolis is he's not turning the football over. He's turned it over 3 times all year. He threw 3 interceptions. He's fumbled once. He recovered his own fumble. Josh Allen, he's turned it over 5 times, 4 interceptions, and 1 lost fumble. That, to me, would be the difference in the game, and I can't believe I'm about to say this. But in terms of not turning the football over, I think that at this point in the year, you have to trust Daniel Jones to not turn it over more than you can trust Josh Allen, just given what we've seen. So I think that would be the difference in the game. Whoever, could force a turnover would probably win, because neither of these defenses are going to find ways to consistently get stops. And to the Colts' credit, as critical as I've been of this defense, they're very opportunistic. They've forced at least 1 turnover in every game that they have played in. It's impressive. It is. They just need better personnel, and hopefully Chris Ballard will be able to get off his hands here a little bit and find a way to go and make it, not get off his hands. I'm sure he's working on it, but hopefully he can go find a trade that is beneficial for the Colts and their ability to win this year. Okay, so I think those are the only two teams in the AFC that are good enough to beat the Colts in the playoffs. That being said, if the Colts played the Bills today, I would 1,000% take the Colts. The Colts played the Chiefs today, though. Don't think I'd be able to take the Colts because the Chiefs are I think they're the best team in the NFL right now. They're the 8th seed. They're 3-3. So I know that's probably not like an okay thing to say, but that's what my eyes tell me. So I like them. And then we get to the NFC. Actually, before we get to the NFC, let me run through all the other teams in the AFC that are vying for a playoff spot and why I don't even consider them whenever I compare them to the Colts. The Patriots, I don't think have enough good players. That's part of it. Like, they're 5-2. They've got that one really impressive road win over the Bills. But the rest of their schedule is it's weak. They have the second weakest strength of schedule in the NFL, or in the AFC, excuse me. The Bills have the softest. They're 4-2 despite a strength of schedule where their opponents' teams' winning percentage is 28%. And then it's the Patriots, whose strength of schedule is at 362. I mean, and they played the Bills. Like, so the schedule's been soft. I like their corners. I like one of their pass rushers. I'm blanking on his name right now. He played at Alabama. Barmore, that's his name. Drake May's having an MVP caliber season. He's he's definitely top 10 in everything. He's top 5 in a lot of things as well when you go by the numbers. They're finding ways to run the football. Will Campbell, left tackle, has come in and been really, really good for them. But I just think top to bottom, I like the Colts roster a little bit more, especially on offense. So that's why I'm not overly worried about the Patriots. The Steelers are 4-2. And I think things are going to get pretty ugly for them here pretty quickly. Their defense just isn't very good. They're going to play the Packers this week, a game that I think they'll lose. And then they're going to play the Colts in their first game in November. It's a game that they probably lose as well. And then they're going to play at the Chargers. And if the Chargers are even kind of healthy, I think that they'll beat them as well. I think we're set up for a skid here from the Steelers. So not overly worried about them. The whole AFC North just as a whole just isn't very good this year. Who would have thought that the division with the Ravens, Steelers, and Bengals wouldn't be very good? Anyway, so not overly concerned about them. Already talked about the Bills. The Chargers are just too banged up right now. If the Chargers can get healthy, then that roster is definitely better than the Colts roster, and they have the better quarterback who just lit this defense up for 421 yards. So if the Chargers were to be healthy by the time the playoffs started, then they would 1,000% be a very concerning team for the Colts to have to go and play against. And then you have Jacksonville, who's currently the 7th seed, and they are the Colts' competition within this division. As for who's going to win this division, Colts now obviously have a 2-game lead over the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars aren't a bad team. I think they're going to get to 9 wins, which is good for me because I bet them over 7.5 wins on the year. But they're not the team that you saw beat the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football. This happens sometimes. A team plays in prime time. They play their best game of the year. That is what the Jacksonville Jaguars did in that game. They played their best game of the year. And they beat the Chiefs by 3 with a couple of really weird plays in there. Trevor Lawrence finally played well, played consistently. But they have issues. Their defense on a consistency basis, I don't think is very good. I think a lot of their stops this year have come via the turnover. And when that's what your defense is relying on, then you have an unreliable defense. And then You have Trevor Lawrence, who's as consistent as the waves of the sea. You just don't know what's going to happen. You have no idea. One moment he could be great. The next moment he could be terrible. It's not good for them. To their credit, they do run the ball well, which gives them a chance. But when your quarterback is that inconsistent and your defense can only get stops when they force turnovers, like it's hard for me to buy into who you are. And after that really nice start, they beat the Chiefs. They played the Seahawks, who's a really good football team. Saw it again last night. They lost to Seattle 20-12, and then they lost to the Rams on Sunday 35-7. That game was over at halftime. I mean, so like while the Jags are good, they're going to beat all of the bad teams on their schedule. So they'll beat the Raiders. They'll probably split with the Texans. They play the Cardinals and the Jets. Those are two very winnable games. No, they're not going to beat the Cardinals. Let me walk that back. But like they still have the Jets and the Titans. So I think that this is still a team that's going to win 9 games, but I don't think that they're really going to push the Colts for the division. And then out in the NFC, there are 4 teams that I think are definitely better than the Colts are. I think it's the Rams, who we already saw beat the Colts, and I say that, and Colts fans turn into Bronco fans. And what I mean when I say that is when I say that the Rams beat the Colts fans immediately say, well, if A.D. Mitchell hadn't dropped the football and if he hadn't held, then we would have won that game. And I compare you to Bronco fans because whenever you say that the Colts beat the Bronco fans immediately go, well, if we hadn't committed that penalty on that field goal, then we would have won. Either way, that's what happened, and good teams take advantage of the opposing team's mistakes. That's what happened in both of those games. I still think that the Rams are better than the Colts just because I like their defense more, and Matthew Stafford is having an MVP caliber season. 17 touchdowns to 2 interceptions 7 weeks into the season is pretty freaking impressive. He's also thrown for 1,800 yards. So Rams, really good football team. The Packers, I think that's the most complete roster in the NFL, both sides of the ball. Josh Jacobs, not as good as he was. It feels like he's lost a little bit of a step, but they're still 4-1-1. I think they can win a shootout with Jordan Love in that offense, and I think that they can also win a defensive bout because that defense is real. And then you have the Eagles, incredibly talented. I don't think I need to explain why the Eagles are good. I think they give the Colts so many issues with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. The question would be, which version of Jalen Hurts do you get? If it's the one from Sunday who's rolling out of the pocket and pushing the ball down the field and doing those things, then I think that that version of the Eagles 1,000% could beat the Colts. Yeah. And then the Seahawks, that team's awesome. They just are loaded on defense, really good on offense as well. That's the other NFC team that I think is good enough to beat the Colts. That's going to do it here on a very wild Real Jonathan Smith show. I'll be back tomorrow, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Zach Hicks set to join me tomorrow morning. He'll be good as he always is. So I'll talk to you tomorrow starting at 7 a.m. The Dan Dockett Show is back today from noon to 3. See ya.